the meeting for Monday, January 27, 2020 of the Arts, Culture, and History Committee. Our first meeting, of course, under, I guess, my tenure, and our first meeting for 2020. So I'd like to welcome everyone. Reverend Moby, I'd like to welcome you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Hall,
Appreciate it.
Ms. Brown, I'd like to welcome you as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Being a relative newcomer to this, I'm looking forward to the guidance that you all are going to offer me as it relates to this committee and what has been accomplished with this committee, and of course what can be accomplished with this committee. I am, and Ms. Hall, you know this, I'm somewhat of a historian.
Yes, you are.
And, you know, this is, I believe, kind of like this is my forte, and this is kind of my calling for now.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
so with that, we'll start with the agenda and introductions, of course. If you all would like to introduce yourselves.
Sure. Patricia Brown, presiding as a representative for the Gary Historic Preservation Commission, also a representative for the Historic and Cultural Society, and sitting on this wonderful committee for the arts, culture, and history, bringing it all together. Been in Gary about 57 years, and my husband and I have raised 2 wonderful daughters. We have 10 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren.
Okay.
And when
Well,
I
guess-
also add the sister of the former 2nd District City Councilman, the
Yes,
Honorable
Gerald Hayes, my brother, was councilman over the second district for over 20-something years.
That's right.
Back in the time, and he served his community, very servitude, and what a wonderful job he did. His name is still being mentioned today because of his service in that community.
Pastor, how are you?
Hello. How you doing,
Mary?
Council Lady?
Councilor.
Mr. Brown, I brought up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jennifer Hall, the President and CEO of the Katie Hall Educational Foundation. I would like to say Happy New Year to the citizens of Gary, and happy belated Dr. King national holiday that we celebrated on Monday, January 20th. I would like to welcome Councilman Cozy Weatherspoon to this committee. We do great work here, and we thank you for coming aboard, and that's it for now. Thank you.
Reverend Moby.
Amen. Pastor Dwight E. Mobley Sr., Van Buren Missionary Baptist Church, 2585 Van Buren Street, right down the street from dear old Roosevelt. That's my moniker. I always say that, right down the street from dear old Roosevelt. I'm blessed to be here. I thank God for the invitation, and I thank God for you allowing me to sit here. And so, again, to Cozy Weatherspoon and to Patricia Brown and Mary Brown.
Yes.
And to you whom I do not know yet, but if I don't make a good impression now, give me 3 chances, I believe I'll pull it off. All right, and so again, I just thank you for the invitation to be a part of the Historical Arts Commission.
And my name is Desiree Simpson. I'm Executive Director and founder of Live Arts Studio, located at 4760 Broadway, right here in Gary. We've been there for nearly 13 years now, and I've just been a resident here for about 1 year. Glad to be in the city, and I've enjoyed being on this committee, and I'm looking forward to the what's to come.
All right, great. And we've also been joined by Council Lady Mary Brown, Council Lady of the 3rd District.
Hi. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm sorry I was late. I spent a day, one of those days.
Yes,
But
sir.
anyway, I came so that I could find out what it is that you're doing.
Fantastic.
What I can do to help.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, and also we'd like to welcome Mr. Purnell in the audience and Attorney Hall.
Okay, bless you, sir.
All right, thank you, thank you. Well, this is my first meeting, of course, and, you know, of course, as Council Lady Brown said, you know, she's here to see what we stand for. I volunteered to be a part of this committee because I wanted to be a part of the arts, culture, and history as it related to this community, because we do have a rich history, excuse me, a lot of which is unknown, a lot of which has to be preserved. So with that, I'm going to start off by asking if there are any reports to be given. We'll start off with the Gary Historic Preservation and Commission.
The Gary Historic Preservation Commission, we're in the process of reorganizing ourselves because of certain people have taken leave and other people has taken, moved up in their status. So we are kind of reorganizing, and our first meeting will be in another 2 weeks. And we will be presenting the new commission at that time and exactly what heads have changed places. In the meantime, we're still very active trying to get certain jobs done that need to be brought forward on the table. One of them is the Gary Water Tower that is still a pending thorn in our flesh, because we thought we had their cooperation after sitting before certain board members, and quite a few of their attorneys were at that meeting. And after sitting before them, we were hoping that we were in their favor and had given them enough information in order to justify us wanting to keep the water tower in Gary, Indiana, being that it's not only part of Gary's history. The water tower has served with a national landmark for Gary, Indiana. At one point, it was even on postcards. So it is throughout Gary's history, and we definitely want them to be sensitive to the citizens of Gary and the citizens of the Calumet Township and throughout the district of Indiana, because that water tower is definitely part of Gary's history. Even though they are erecting and probably have already erected a new water tower, that water tower that is there now, the old one, I have such wonderful memories of it. Taking my children to the water tower, listening to their narrators give the presentation of what it meant to have clean water here in Gary, Indiana, being able to go there at that site and look at the structure and actually see what was displayed as far as the engineering at that time. Also being able to go there and pay our water bill all the time. It was just a friendly environment. So definitely, that's part of our thorn in the flesh right now, because we thought it was over, but we're ongoing. We have to open up more lines of communication with the general public in order for them to be sensitive and come in and give us a helping hand, and letting the people know that even though the water tower is ran by a national company, it is still very local to the Garyites. And the people here in Gary, we definitely want to keep our landmark. It's part of our history. It's part of Gary's wonderful history. And we definitely want our citizens to participate as far as letting the Indiana American Water Company know that they are all backing the Gary Historic Preservation Commission and what we are reporting to them as citizens of Gary, Indiana. That's one of the little
Question.
ongoing.
If you don't mind my asking, question. Who have you been meeting with? You say you have met with entities of the water company.
Yes.
Exactly. Who have you met with?
Yes, his name is Mr. Justin Mounts. Is it Mounts?
Mount,
Oh,
Mount, M-O-U-N-T.
Is he located here in Gary?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And that's our communicator, and he
You
did
know
a
what-
good job of
Do you know his title, by chance?
He's major account manager for Indiana American Water. Here it is, Matt.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay. Do you have another meeting set up with him anytime soon?
No, because their minds are made up. They are going to demolish the water tower at a cost of about $900,000.
You have a phone number for him by chance?
Yes, we'll give it to you after.
Okay, great.
we,
Great.
it's
Great.
get off
It's
there.
still this, it's probably,
$900,000 to whom?
Indiana American, yes.
So they wanna pay $900,000
Yes.
to destroy it rather than,
They said it's too expensive to maintain.
okay.
Yes, it's to, according to them, we have a letter from him that was dictated to Mayor Freeman Wilson last year. I'll make sure you get a copy.
Okay.
Please, please.
Okay, we'll make sure both.
Okay, thank you.
And also, Mr. Chair, before we move on from the Gary Historic Preservation Commission report, I would like to encourage the citizens of Gary to recommend historic sites that we can possibly preserve and designate as a local historic landmark. Today, someone suggested that we try to give historic status to the home of Andrew Means. We should know Mr. Means and his contributions. He was a developer. He built over 300 middle-class homes in the city of Gary that's called Means Manor. And his home is adjacent to First Baptist Church toward Harrison Street. And I don't know what the status is, if anyone is living there or whatever.
And he's African American.
And, yes, he was African American, so.
Yes, he was, yes.
Some of his descendants, the family of his daughter, Sylvia Means McDonald, I've been in communication with, and we're hoping to get their support
Right.
to help designate and take the home through the process of getting it local historic landmark status.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up about historic landmark statuses, because there were two places that were brought to my attention, and I don't know if they are already considered as historic landmarks, but I think there's significant reasons why they should be, if not, or we should push toward trying to get them as historic landmarks. The first, of course, being Gary Westside High School. The reason for Gary Westside High School is all based around the 1972 convention, the Black convention that was put on there. You know, I think there's enough significance around that convention to consider Westside as such. The second location, of course, being St. John's Church on 23rd and Massachusetts, am I correct?
24.
24th in Massachusetts, and I should know that because St. James on 25th. But there also, because of the relationship that Reverend Julius James
Yes.
had with the Reverend Martin Luther King.
Yes.
So just a couple of ideas and things that were thrown out to me, and I thought they would be of interest to present to the committee and to see what you all thought about those. And of course, there are many other sites within the city
Right.
Yes.
that have to be considered all, because I think it's important that we preserve our history within this community.
That's true.
And someone had mentioned First Baptist
Yeah,
Missionary
First Baptist Church.
Big brother Mr. Means,
Right.
as
Mhm.
well as Van Buren Missionary Baptist Church because of historical aspect of that. Reverend Older Street and on the back, Reverend Reagan and all that.
Okay.
But that's all right.
So I would encourage them to start with the single site application that is available. They can obtain one from myself or Commissioner Brown or the Gary Planning Commission.
Okay.
They have those single site applications, and that's the first step that a citizen or anyone needs to go through. And Mr. Chair, I want to say that the Gary Land Company is the only historic landmark local designation, and that was done last year by the Gary County
Really?
Council.
Yes.
Yes. And, so that one made it through all the steps that it has to go through.
Okay.
And then you have the Katie Hall House, so you're working on as well, aren't you?
Yeah, we have the Katie Hall House and the Katie Hall District, U.S.
Yes.
Representative Katie Hall
Right,
District.
19th
And I know
Madison.
that was your teacher, so.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Just
Seventh
Gary
grade, seventh grade history.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
Yes,
That's right.
Just to mention a few of those sites, we have list of
Okay.
many sites here in
Great,
Gary that's
great.
being designated. As far as the schools, all of Gary's schools were designated as far, well, which we have them on a list, trying to designate them history here in Gary, Indiana.
Okay, great.
And not only the schools, the churches.
Churches,
We have
yes.
some powerful churches here in Gary,
Yes,
Indiana.
That's right, we do.
And then there's several clubs that we really don't hear that much from, but we know that they still exist here in Gary, Indiana. And they definitely have, their organizations have a powerful history. when it comes to civil rights here in Gary, Indiana.
Okay, great.
So yes, we'll go back to the 60s and the 50s, and there's we could write a book when it comes to
Oh, I'm sure we
Gary's
could.
history.
And
As
even
far
beyond.
as African American history here in the United States, we can lay down some.
And, you know, one thing I think that we have to also take into consideration is that, you know, it doesn't just go back to the city, to the 60s.
Right.
Because when we talk about the culture of the city, the diversity of the city over the city's history,
Yes,
you know, there are a wealth of contributors from all ethnicities
yes.
that have contributed to this city, and we have to kind of promote all of that.
That's right.
Exactly.
We have to promote all of that, so.
And one of the individuals that definitely made his mark here in Gary, Indiana, was our wonderful William Wilson Cook, architect, designer. He put several sites here in Gary, Indiana. He did a total of 40 buildings throughout northeast area in here in the United States. And we have information dealing with his home, as
Okay.
well as the different sites that he had built here in Gary, Indiana. One of the very renowned architects here in Gary. Andrew Means, of course, the family, the Powell family, you
Yes.
know, they
Powells,
all,
yes.
yes, made
The
Powell's
list goes
family,
on, yes.
made their history,
Yep.
laid down Gary's history.
All
But
right.
going a little further into a Gary Historic Preservation Commission, we also have a new young lady on board. Her name is Miss Talithia Barrett.
Okay.
Very wonderful individual, and we definitely had welcomed her and make sure she's feeling comfortable with us because she's very interested in serving on the commission itself.
Okay,
And
may I-
hopefully.
May I
yes.
ask, when is the next meeting of the Gary Historic Preservation?
February
Second-
12th.
Beg your pardon?
February
The
12th.
February 12th, and where is that meeting gonna be located?
Here in the
It's gonna
Cleo
be here?
Westland Lounge
Yes.
at 3 p.m.
3 p.m., wow, that's
Yes.
gonna be a tough one for me.
Mm.
It's gonna be a tough one for me, but February 12th, okay, I got that down. Okay, great. All right,
So those of you who are interested and have other things that you would like to bring forward to the commission, we're sitting and hopefully we'll help you complete whatever you're interested in.
okay, great,
At least get the ball rolling.
great. Okay,
Also with the Gary Historic and Cultural Society,
yes.
we have completed our agenda as far as looking at this year. We're hoping to get 4 major events dealing with the 4 seasons that we go through here in Northwest Indiana. Of course, we have our ongoing Christmas event in December, and we have our summer enrichment program for the children in the summertime. We also like to present our orchestra to during the spring. We'd like to, and the early part of March, April, we would like to present our orchestra to the general public. The orchestra has been busy. They play at funerals. They it's kind of rational as to where they play. You know, it's just a matter of asking. But they are available to the citizens of Gary, and they don't know because they don't ask.
What is the name of this orchestra?
Gary Civic Symphony Orchestra have been sitting in Gary, Indiana for over 36 years. And our conductor is Michael Carson.
Oh, Mike Carson, yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
And as far as the orchestra, right now we're looking at a spring event, a couple of spring events that we'd like to put on. One dealing with the schools to present the musical instruments to the students of the Gary schools.
Mm-hmm.
And also the other is dealing with St. John Lutheran Church. That's
Okay.
where we used to host our summer enrichment program. Now we're considering moving it because we have, there's other locations. St. John is combining with another church, St. Paul Lutheran Church. They're on 25th Avenue. And we're considering moving it to that location to begin with as far as the summer enrichment program. But there's, as far as the Gary Historical and Cultural Society, there has been quite a few correspondence that's going on here in Gary, Indiana. One of them is dealing with nature trails, and we did get some information dealing with these trails, and it's coming under a section of the Indiana Department of Transportation, and we're sharing that with our council people because the project itself needs to be looked at by several organizations in order to do an evaluation and help them assess how much it's needed here in Gary, Indiana, extending their nature trails.
This would be something, one part of the
We'll bring up
enrichment for
with the
the.
commission, with the council, the city council.
Okay, but
First
the
we're
plan
gonna-
is this is part of a summer enrichment program for the
No.
children?
Oh, no, this is something different, totally different.
Okay.
Yes,
This-
sorry.
This would be for adult, I'm just getting an understanding, this would be for adults, when would be planned?
As far as the nature trails.
Right,
Yes, it's being presented by the Indiana Department of Transportation, therefore it's coming through the governor.
okay.
And Federal Highway Administration, it's called Gary Green Link Trails. And it's a project that's ongoing, and they sent us information. I did go over it, realizing that it's bigger than the Gary Historic and Cultural Society. So we will be sharing this information with our council people
Okay.
and letting them get on board. Everybody can take a look at it and see how they feel about it. They give us a certain amount of days in order to do any
When do you plan to present it to the
critiquing.
council?
My councilman is Councilman Dwight Williams, and
Thought you
I
were in the
spoke
second
with him.
district.
What is it? No, I'm in the sixth district.
Okay, but he does sit on this committee now.
No,
Not
no,
yet.
no.
Not
Yes.
yet.
Yes.
Oh, he does.
Yes.
Wonderful.
He's a member of
Excellent.
this
All the
committee.
council people, wonderful.
No, he is on this committee along with Council Lady Caldwell, Fifth District.
Wonderful. Excellent. So if he was here, I'd pass it over to him. I'll
Yes,
hold on to it
absolutely.
for
We'll work
him.
together on that. No, we'll work together on it. That's fantastic.
Wonderful. Excellent.
Fantastic.
Any of that information by chance come from Herb
Come from,
Northwest Indiana Regional Planning Commission? Is any of that come from them?
no.
Okay.
Also, there's another line of communication with the Federal Communication Commission coming out of Washington DC, presenting the letter to the Gary Historical and Cultural Society, dealing with, well, they want to put more, what do you call these cells, dealing with more for phones and whatnot. They want to bring in, yes, more cells here in the Gary area, the towers, yeah. So that's that, I'm gonna pass that on to them. Also, you know, we have other things that we definitely wanna stay focused with, but we'd like to share that so that the city
Absolutely.
could be aware of it and communicate with these wonderful organizations.
Absolutely. Okay.
The Gary Historical and Cultural Society, as I said before, we're ongoing as far as our membership. It's opened up to all citizens, not only here in Gary, Indiana, but nationally. And supporting our organization is supporting the orchestra, supporting Gary's history, trying to maintain Gary's administration over our schools, definitely, and also making people aware that the Garyites are ongoing, very busy. You might not hear about us, but we definitely care about our wonderful city. That's why we're sitting here. And my daughters for years have been trying to get me to move to Florida.
No, don't go.
I said, off limits, my husband and myself, I speak for both of us.
I have one other question to ask. The Gary Historic and Cultural Society, when is your next meeting and where is it located?
We meet the third Tuesday of the month, and our meetings are ongoing at Indiana University. Hawthorne Building on the second floor, room 200. And our meetings are starting now at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
2 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yes, the third Tuesday of the month.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, great. Okay, anything more?
No, not at this time.
Okay, great. All right, next up on our agenda will be Live Arts and Studio Report.
Yes, Desiree Simpson of Live Art Studio. And right now we are preparing for February, which is each month we do a presentation and open art program at the University of Chicago's Logan Center.
Okay.
And this weekend, this coming Saturday, we will be hosting Caribbean Festival as the theme. And it's 2 hours from 2 to 4 every first Saturday of the month. This theme again is Caribbean, and I have to look at the itinerary that goes through the academic calendar year. Those are the months that we host our open art for families from October through June.
Okay.
And we're doing restructuring at the studio. However, we are working with different school districts. And right now, recently we were approached by the one of the chairs of the Chicago Sinfonietta to present and help present at their annual fundraising event, which is in December. And the theme they're using is Stevie Wonder's music, as he orchestrated classical music as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're using from albums such as Songs in the Key of Life to Jungle Fever, you name it. But I have commandeered a group of children in the Riverdale School District, the music students, to create to his music. And the artwork that they create will be done on canvases. And those canvases will be used as the centerpieces for the December fundraising event, which will be held at the Crystal Garden at the pier, Navy Pier. And Steve Baskerville will be the MC for the evening. I was able to do one, I think almost 8 or 9 years ago now, in which the theme was the Beautiful Ballerina and the Nutcracker. And they generally will have a student orchestral group who will perform, but also the Chicago Sinfonietta, who are the arm of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, who are mainly made up of minority performers, classical performers. So we're gearing up for that, as well as for our summer, in which we host a variety of summer arts camps at our studio, as well as at other venues here in the city.
Okay.
So we go both out to venues such as churches and host those events, and as well as have them in-house at our studio.
Where's your studio located?
4760 Broadway. And here, I'll give this to you, which you put your phone on that, it'll take you right to the
Oh,
site.
okay, great,
Yeah.
great.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Okay.
So
Any more?
that's what we're doing right now.
All right, so, okay. All right, great, sounds good. All right, we'll move on from there to the next item on the agenda, which will be the Katie Hall Education Foundation report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief. Before I make my report, I would like to acknowledge our 2 board members who are here. We have the Honorable Mary Brown, who sits on the Katie Hall Educational Foundation. And of course, we have Deacon Attorney Hall, who is our Chief Legal Counsel, Chaplain, and Vice President. He has 3 jobs. So we thank both of you for your attendance this afternoon or this evening. Very quickly, I would like to say that the Katie Hall Educational Foundation, we work all year long participating in various community activities, historical in nature, cultural in nature, and we're venturing out art in nature. Our next event, which will be our main fundraiser, is going to be on Friday, April 3rd. The 8th Annual Katie Hall Public Service Awards Luncheon. It will be held at the Genesis Convention Center. We all know where that is. And the VIP reception will begin at 11 a.m., luncheon at 12 p.m. And we invite the general public and each of you to come out as we recognize an individual or individuals who have contributed greatly to public service in our nation, state, or city even. Also, I would like to say on April 11th, for the 7th time, the Katie Hall Educational Foundation will remember the life and work of U.S. President Abraham Lincoln at the Lincoln Tomb in Springfield, Illinois. This is a day trip. We do leave promptly at 7:30 a.m. We arrive in the Springfield area at about 11:30. We take a visit, for those of you who haven't visited before, President Lincoln's home, as well as the Visitor Center, where you can see a short video about his life and work. And at 1 p.m., we head over to the Lincoln Tomb, which is across town in North Springfield, to conduct the Lincoln Remembrance Ceremony. That ceremony is free and open to the general public. And we do remember President Lincoln for his work. He did so much for African Americans. Number one, he ended slavery on paper. With the 13th Amendment, he wrote that document, and of course the Emancipation Proclamation, and led the United States during the Civil War. So we remember him for those great accomplishments. Also, I would like to say in the final comment, we just celebrated the Dr. King National Holiday on Monday, January 20th. Yes. We still have our postcards available. For those of you who would like to send a friendly greeting across the nation or world, we don't limit ourselves just to the United States of America. Who would like to send a postcard or a greeting card. We have greeting cards. We are the direct competitor to Hallmark and American Greetings because they do not offer any products for the Dr. King National Holiday. And we are hoping to correct that. So, but I won't get too much into that, but I would like to mention we do our postcards all year long, and our greeting cards and postcards are available for African American History Month. Great. And thank you.
Could you repeat also for the memorial, for the lunch, for the Lincoln Tomb Memorial?
Yes.
So there would be transportation there?
Well, this is something our very own Pastor Mobley, I'm a member of his church, okay. Van Buren. Van Buren has donated their van for at least 3 to 4 years to take people who wanted to go down to Springfield. So I don't know if we will do that again this year. That remains to be seen. But it was no charge because all they had to do was step into the van, Councilman, and ride. And the church donated the van for us, and the Katie Hall Foundation filled up the tank with gas.
You said that's going to be on April 11th?
Yeah, that's a Saturday.
But could you give the times for those events again?
Yes, we depart the city of Gary at 7:30 a.m. because the trip to Springfield is about 2 hours and a half or 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Okay.
And
Attorney Hall does the driving.
Oh, Attorney Hall does the driving. On there and sometimes back. We will arrive in Springfield at about 11:30ish. And we normally go straight to the Lincoln home. It's a National Historic Site. And depending on availability, because one time we had to wait 2 hours. There were so many people from all over trying to get in. So if the crowds are down, We'll take a tour of the president's home, which is a very detailed informational tour.
Okay.
And you walk right through his bedroom. So it's very neat the way they
That
have
sounds
it
cool. That sounds cool.
set up. And then we go right across the street to see the film on President Lincoln, which is about 20 minutes. And then we'll load up and go over to the Lincoln Tomb, which is about 15 minutes away. And that program begins promptly at 1 p.m.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay, so that concludes my report, Mr. Chair, for this evening.
Okay. All right, moving right along, and this is where you all may have to help me out. I have not had the opportunity since being appointed to this committee to speak with former Council Lady Wyatt, who of course ran the this commission before, committee, I'm sorry, before. But with that being said, is there any old business that you all could bring me up on that I'm unaware of?
Well, I would like to say one of the things that is sort of ongoing, and that is the sale of the Gary Pictorial History book. That sells for $20 if you purchase it either from the Gary Historic Preservation Commission or the Katie Hall Foundation, because we are 501c3s. And if you purchase it from the city of Gary, you will have to pay sales tax on that. So we are encouraging citizens to purchase a copy of the book. Our church, my church, is very progressive. We are on top of everything at Van Buren. And we have a copy in our library.
Okay.
So we're encouraging people. The book was written by Drs. Lane and Cohen.
Former
Both-
professor of ours? At
Yes,
the
and
university? Yes.
former professors at Indiana University Northwest. It's a very thorough book, and it starts with the city's founding in 1906 all the way up to modern times. So we encourage people to get it and support it, and that's the major item
You know,
of all business.
I probably made a lot of contribution to that book. I don't know if you remember back at the time when we were at Indiana University Northwest, we were working on those Calumet archives. And we were
Yes.
actually out interviewing residents who had lived in the city at the turn of the century and so forth during that
Yes,
time period.
yes. Well, it's a very good book. So that's one of the major old business items that we have.
The one question I have about the sale of that book, Council Lady Brown, you can help me out on this. There was a little controversy, if I'm not mistaken, last year about the sale of the book and how.
And I don't have that information. You have to get that from Councilman Brewer, because
Okay.
you know more about that than.
Okay, because I know there was something that was brought up about the sale of the book.
We were not supposed to be selling the books or something. I don't know. I don't have the information, so.
Okay, Councilman Brewer would have that. Okay, great,
Yeah, so you
great,
can ask him.
great. Okay. Any other new or old business?
Yes, one other thing, I would encourage the citizens of Gary to come out and participate in the Art, Culture, and History Committee. It was founded several years ago by former Councilman Gerald Hayes and Mrs. Dorothea Millender, and then it sort of faded away, and during her lifetime, Miss Naomi Millender was instrumental in getting the committee revived, and we thank her for all of her great work. And we would encourage more citizens to come out and to participate.
Absolutely.
With the art scene, culture scene, and history scene in Gary, and so many organizations are doing a great job, working hard to present programs
Right.
that are very cultural and historical in nature.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are free.
Yeah.
And at the end, before we adjourn, I'll give a few announcements for events that are up and coming, and they're all free and very cultural in nature. So
Yeah.
please, public, come out and help support us.
I want to echo those sentiments because, you know, when you look at the city, the makeup of the city, both past and present, you know, we have filled this nation with riches as it relates to
Right.
the arts, and this goes well beyond the Jacksons. It goes into the music industry. It goes into the movie industry, the acting industry, the art. You name it, we've done it. Okay, we've done it, and we still at this point in time have a lot of talented individuals within this community
That's true.
that could help to build this committee. You know, that can ultimately show off the riches that this community has had to offer and that will continue to have to offer in this community. One individual right off of the bat, and you all know him, is Mark Spencer.
Yeah, oh, yes, oh, yes.
You know, it's a plea for you, Mark, come on out. You know,
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
really, you know, and others as well.
Yes,
You
of
know,
course.
that, you know, you have a variety of different performers, a variety of people that are into the arts.
Yes.
Let's
that's
come out
it.
and be a part of it.
That's
And,
right.
and, you know, continue the legacy of this city of turning out great talent
Oh,
and sharing
yes.
its talents with the world.
Yes, correct.
Absolutely.
Also, with our past history, our congressman has always presented a calendar at the
Yes, he
beginning
has.
of the year.
Yes, he has.
At the end of the year for the next year. And I looked at the calendar, I say, let me pay more attention to it. I love putting it up, just having a
Yes.
calendar available at the house without looking at the phone all the time. And the calendars that he have been putting out is dealing with history. History dealing with the United States of America. And the history is so powerful in the United States of America that we need to write it down and remember it from every gamut that you can receive it. And that's how come we sit here, not only from the churches and from the schools and from the children and the individuals, but as you said, you've done interviews of the seniors here in Gary,
Yes.
Indiana. And to have a senior tell you about Gary, Indiana is totally different than what you'll ever read
That's
in
right.
a book.
That's right. Absolutely.
And it makes it's like learning genealogy for the first time in your life. You will hear things about your family, you will hear things about this city that you didn't know had taken place and had gone on, but it is stamped with approval with our history here in Gary, because we have to continuously share what Gary has been through, what Gary is going through, and our future as what we would like to see Gary develop into.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I guess we have a presentation now by Reverend Dwight Mobley.
Well, thank you. Again, I appreciate you all allowing me, and I'm a preacher, so I do not have any lack of words. And so I just wanted to say that, but I will try to be as brief as possible, but speak as long as necessary.
Amen.
And so, Commissioner, I really appreciate Commissioner Witherspoon for having us, Weatherspoon, for having us here, and to Brown and Simpson and Brown, I think in Attorney Hall, and Sister Jennifer Hall, and Brother Don back there. Burnell back there. Again, really do appreciate you. I am here because I am blessed to be in a position to live long enough, to be young enough, to live long enough to be the proud pastor of a church that is entering into its 100th year within the city of Gary, a city that was established in 1906.
Amen.
And 14 years later, a church that began as Macedonia on 22nd place under several, and I come at it from a perspective of a preacher, and so I tell the history based on the preachers that we have had at Van Buren Missionary Baptist Church, and I said church. And so when I think about what we're trying to do in 100 years, what we are trying to do this year, and what we've been trying to do since I've been the pastor, is to maintain our rich history of our past, connected to our present, and make sure that that past and that present will enable us to operate in the future. And so while things have changed, the message of Van Buren has always maintained that we are there for the glory of God through Jesus Christ. And so I appreciate the fact that you all are dealing with history from a city perspective. We're dealing with it not only from just this city, but we're also dealing with it from our church. because it was people who migrated here from the South, who came from Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. I better say Arkansas, or Deacon Suggs and Mother Suggs will get me. Or I say Alabama, Arkansas, which one of our pastors came from. Timothy Evans came from Arkansas. And so what I appreciate is that the elders of our church, even on tonight, one of our elders went home to be with the Lord, Leslie B. Jones, who was a tremendous, she worked in the kitchen at our church, ruled it with an iron fist. And so, but we appreciate her, and we just have so many members who grew up here, who came here, grew up here, were attached here, and just as Sister Brown over there said, her children are asking her to leave, but I have members who have said, Gary I came to, and Gary is going to be my next stop before I go to heaven. And so I really appreciate what our history is. If you look at Van Buren now, you would think that that's the way we've always been, but we do not despise our meager beginnings. We were a tar paper shack of a church in the very beginning. Matter of fact, our connection to Roosevelt High School is that our church was started in the portable building of Roosevelt. And so that's why I'm always saying right down the street from dear old Roosevelt, is because our connection is our beginning starts there. And we started on 22nd Place. Sometime later, they moved, a few years later, they were moved to 2585, where our church is now. But the church that you see now is not the church that was always there. They were a basement church initially, and then we built on top of that. The top part has been there since 1957. Well, that's when they completed it. And many of those who worked in the steel mill, which this place is called the Steel City. And so because it's the Steel City, I can say a preacher move right here is that we're still here. And so even though they may have come down, we still are up where God wants us to be. And so there were those who worked in the steel mill, who left from the steel mill, came and put their hands in and did work. And they were not construction engineers. They did not have the education that those who are architecturally sound in. And I can prove that to you if you ever come to Van Buren with a ruler. I can show you that they eyeballed a whole lot of things. Matter of fact, there were some things that looked like they're straight, but they're really sideways. And so, but that was they put their hands in it. They loved that church, and because they loved God, they loved church, and they loved one another. We have not always been in good times as a church that survived through the Depression, or what other folks call the Depression was really just a recession for us. And so, but we thank God that they kept on working. They didn't stop. They kept moving. And so here I am, a person who follows J.J. Overstreet, who follows Timothy Evans, who follows Anthony Kelly. And here I am, and I've been there since 1995. I'm a little boy from the west side of Chicago who was moved from the west side into the western suburbs. And so I have a dual education of urban economics and knowing how to work in two societies, if you get what I just said. And so, but I am blessed. We are connected with St. James Missionary Baptist Church. We are connected with Koinonia Baptist Church. We are connected with several churches within this community, but we're not just connected with churches, we're connected civically because we were the ones who brought Rosa Parks here.
That's right.
Filled up a church that could only seat 1,500 and had 2,500 there. We are not only connected with Rosa Parks. I'm getting to it, Deacon. I'm going to get to it. But we are also interested. We brought the Brown versus Brown had them here. Now, you want to say something about that?
Brown versus Board of Education.
Brown versus the Board of Education.
Right.
And so we have been connected to what it is, who we are as a people, as African American people. And so we are one of the founding churches. We started a year later with Galilee Missionary Baptist Church that started the male chorus boosters. And so every first Sunday in June, since that was established, when we had 60, 70, we up there in years as far as that has happened, and it has continued to go on. We were the church that when they had what is called the simultaneous revival, Van Buren not only had it at nighttime, we had it at noontime, we had it at morning time, and we had to close out and the opening for at least 25 straight years. There was some argument about who started it. I won't get into that. But as far as our history is concerned, that's how we deal with it. And so I just showed up tonight just to invite you all to celebrate with us. We'll be celebrating throughout this year. One of our first celebrations will be on March the 13th. Most folks don't like Friday the 13th, but Friday the 13th is going to be a great night because we will be having a 100-year black tie attire dinner. So if you have a tuxedo, or if you don't have a tuxedo, wear something black with something white, something purple, however you want to do it. But we will have that banquet at the Chateau. We have a commercial right now that's on WGVE 88.7. If you listen, you will hear it. And so we will be there initially. We will later have a family reunion in July. And I don't want to bog you down with all of that information. But we are excited, and we just want those who may not have been connected with Van Buren, that if you connect with us, you will see that we not only are interested in what happens in Gary, but we are very adamant about trying to connect with young people to let them know that we have a robust history within this city. And you don't have to, just because you get educated someplace else, doesn't mean that you have to leave and stay there. You can come back here because I'm not one of those people that, as the newspaper article said a few weeks ago, I'm not a downtrodden Garyite. I am not a morose member of a downgraded society. I don't know who they talk to. Obviously, they didn't talk to me. But Gary, to me, is an exciting place because just because we're not where we used to be does not mean we cannot get to a greater height than what we used to be. And so I believe that, and I stand on that. And so as I come to a close, I really appreciate you all allowing me to speak to you, give you a brief history of who we are. Again, there are churches that are older than Van Buren, but I'm glad we may not ever catch up to them, but I'm glad that we've been here for 100 years. And so our theme this year is, and isn't it a marvelous thing? We started in 1920. 100 years makes it 2020. And so our theme is ministry that matters to God, matters to the glory of God with 2020 vision. And so, listen, it's the perfect insight on who we are and who we hope to become, because we have not made it there yet, but we strive to get there, not only for God's glory, but even for this city. We want members of ours to be proud to know that we are in Gary. And just my last story, I'm a preacher, so I said as I come to a close, some years ago, when I very early in my infancy of pastoring the church, a young man, teenager, told his parent that he did not want to be a member of our church. She asked him why, and he says, because it's a ghetto church. At first, initially, I was offended. I was offended that he would say that we were a ghetto church. But the Spirit of the Lord said to me, where are you? I said, I'm at 2585. He said, no, where are you? I said, Lord, I'm on the corner of 2585. He says, no, where are you? And I had to come to reality of is that the young man was right and wrong at the same time. Yes, Van Buren is in the ghetto, but Van Buren is not a ghetto church.
Amen.
And we do not have a ghetto mentality. And listen, just like Van Buren is in ghetto, there are some good things that still come out of Nazareth. I can scream on that one right now. There's still some good things that come out of Nazareth, and Van Buren is one of those cities that is still shining bright, and there was great things that are still coming out of Van Buren Missionary Baptist Church. And if you've never been there, you've missed the treatment. Don't go to Glory till you show up at Van Buren Missionary Baptist Church. We are church unusual, and we would listen. And when you get there, I'll be there. So don't promise you're going to get there. When I see you, I'll know you there.
All right, Pastor.
All right. Bless you. Thank you for listening to me.
All right, thank you,
Well, I just
Reverend.
want to say, my husband's family was
Yes.
raised in that church.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
And so I've already been called about the banquet.
Yes.
Okay,
So, yeah,
okay.
down the range already called me.
Oh, them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's,
Yeah.
And let me
That's
just say
one
this,
thing about
and I
this.
forgot, because the other thing that we're doing is we're creating a family tree. Because again, we want to stay connected with
Okay.
our rich past.
Amen.
And so we have a family tree that's going, I won't
Okay.
elaborate on that, but we're doing a family tree, and we want as many persons, we tried to figure out how everybody would be able to do what needs to be done. And we're not only doing that, but we're also doing legacy stones for those who are deceased, because it's a legacy of love that just because they're gone doesn't mean that we can't remember, because we would not be where we are if it wasn't for those who came before us.
Amen.
And so I've never understood the argument of old school and new school, because whatever new is going to become old. And so it's all connected.
Thank you, Pastor.
Bless
You know, one thing that, we, and I recognize Van Buren Baptist Church, but one thing about it, we have a lot of churches in this community that have a rich history.
Yes.
A rich past. As I mentioned St. John's earlier.
Yes.
It has its mark in history, St. Timothy's, and the list goes on and on and on.
St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church
St.
will be
Paul's
104
missionary, that's
years
right,
this year.
that's right, that's right. My original was St.
As
James
I said, I've
A&M.
already been
Yes.
contacted, so.
Okay, well,
First day of year was another one.
Yeah, my husband's family, that was their church.
Oh,
They
yeah.
all used to belong
Oh,
there.
Mama, I had to fight with the daughters about
Yes,
that.
right, yes.
Okay.
We're the only church that have the distinction of having this rows of parks
Yes.
at our church. in
All right.
Detroit. The
That's
only
great.
church.
That's right.
So follow up, Mrs. Linda Brown from Brown versus Board of Education.
Yes.
No other church has that kind of
Okay.
history.
All right, great. Okay, we'll move the agenda along.
Okay.
Want to ask, are there any commentary from the audience, from the public? Can you keep it to 2 minutes?
It's okay, I'm sorry. I'm pretty amazed to hear that the American Water want to tear down the water tower. I was under the impression that they scrapped that particular project. We had a conference last year at the Performance Place called WEF. That's the Water and Environmental Federation. It's about 70,000 people around the world dealing with all the water issues, At that particular conference, they had the unique water towers around the world. Believe it or not, they had the Gary water
Okay.
towers there. It was on the wall. I talked to a couple of people about it. They said that they were just talking about it. They didn't have any plans of scrapping it. But if this water tower was any other place in Indiana, they would not touch it. It's something that we have to really, get on their case about. It's a very unique structure. We have a collection at the Northwest Indiana Archive. The guy Steve McShane,
Yes.
he have all the brochures that showing Gary. They always focus upon that particular water tower. I believe if you talk to Indiana American Water, they will say.
I plan to.
They have to say that.
I plan to talk to them.
One of the only things that's left, the other thing I would like to bring up too is that Memorial Auditorium. They only had a facade that's standing there, but it's a pretty unique structure. When I was growing up, that's where we had our graduation. We had Gary holiday tournaments. It was
That's true.
the Memorial Auditorium. But, I know the whole building is basically gone, but the facade is there. I was thinking, we spend quite a bit of money at the City Methodist Church. You know, it'll be on the agenda next week at redevelopment. They want to spend some more money over there, but that's one of those items that they'll have to save. And then the third thing is that, that North Gleason Park Pavilion over
Yes.
there.
Yes.
It's been sitting there, but it's a very unique structure. You know, when I was young, that was the only place we went to at the park was North Gleason. I was under the impression that was it for Gary, North Gleason. But you know, the structure it's in bad shape. You know, we talked about it several times at the park board, but you know they have other obligations they're trying to fulfill. You know, I don't think they would put their hat in the, you know, in the pile to try to do something with it. But, you know, as far as that water tower, we had to save that. There's no other community they would let them tear that down.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
No?
All right. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Before you do that, I just thought about it, and I would feel so bad if I did not mention. I mentioned churches that we were connected to, and Koinonia Missionary Baptist Church is a sister church that came out of, as well as I.C. Ball and Gilkey helped to start St. James Missionary Baptist Church. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that. Again, it's a part of our history, and it's a long history. And so I just thought about it when he started talking about facades.
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
All right. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that the January 27, 2020 meeting of the Art, Culture, and History Committee be adjourned at this time.
Second on that? All right. Done deal.